Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join me in this wild, windy weathered world which is Glen Prosen. And just look at this beautiful scene of Scotland in front of me. Today's adventure, I'm up this glen to document an ancient abandoned farm, Croft and Cottage, which is actually right down there at the lower level of the glen. I need to make my way down to the edge of the river and then basically head upstream. But from the road here I can actually see old stone remains, so I'm wanting to head down that kind of general direction. I'm going to follow the old wall line down into the field, and yeah, let's document more history, see if there's anything we've never seen before on the channel. I was down at this Croft one time with Highlander, but we literally came from the other side of the glen and crossed the river. So today it's cool to come back from this perspective and document more farm history and go a route that I've never been before. And yeah, it's amazing in Scotland the difference at this time of year compared to the summer. In a few months, routes like this will be more difficult to navigate. And for this adventure I do apologise for any wind in the audio. It was literally just raining here as well a couple of minutes ago, and I can see rainstorms away in the distance. Anyway, let's get into action folks. So I've made it into the field here and I've come with the greatest respect to the landowner and the farmer. I can see sheep over at the far side, but I think I'm okay going down this way. It looks like it could be pretty boggy down at the bottom of this hill, but I've got the boots on for this one, so I should be okay. I just need to be sensible wherever I walk, try not to end up inside a bog. And yeah, I think the ancient historical wonder is just down here. It'll be cool to see if there's any other little nuggets hidden in the land here that I've never documented before. This was just kind of like a spontaneous adventure. When I remembered about this place, I just wanted to come back down, throw the camera on and go for a wee walk. It is mid-afternoon right now, so I'm making the most of these short days. I was working this morning, so this is like as early as I could get out. And it's so much fun heading into lands like this. At this time of year they look quite desolate. All the grass is that yellow kind of colour. And just look at the colour of the sky up there. I wouldn't be surprised if the rain comes back on for this adventure. And I didn't actually bring my normal army coat, which is super waterproof. I'm just in my normal coat today, so I'll just try and avoid the rain hopefully. Look at this amount of stones piled up at the perimeter. Often these stones were cleared from all the land here, from the fields, and piled up, sometimes in massive heaps, because there was so many stones in the land of Scotland here. And these are the scars from the ancient farm history on the land. The first farmers that created these fields, and then generations on and after that would have kept piling them up here probably. There's such a quantity of stones. It'll be interesting to see if potentially this old farm down here may have had a water source or something higher up on the hill, and it'll be cool to see if there's any of that today as well. Some of these old farms used to have water wheels and other devices for farming, and it's so cool to come and document what's left from those ancient times. Some of the farms we've recorded in the past have still got the old mills, the old wooden mills in the shed. Some of them still got the water wheels, and it's amazing to compare all the different crofts that we see and just see what's left from each one. Sometimes they were built differently to fit within the land. I'm just picking a route. Sometimes from a higher altitude here you need to see the land for your best next move. And I think I'm going to go down this way folks. I'm just heading into these wilds. Obviously it's well grazed from sheep, and the farmer will probably come along here often. I can see tracks which will be like quad bike tracks over the land. A couple of pheasants flew out there folks. I just managed to turn the camera on in time. In a couple of months these lands here will be strife with ticks. That's another reason I like to call this exploring season, and I like to go to some of the more extreme locations at this time of year. Yeah, look at the character of this, folks. Even just the way that tree stands with the old dike line. Nature just takes back over. There's been so much built here, folks, at one time. But I've got a dilemma. That's all overgrown with the gorse bushes and stuff. But at this area here, it looks clear and I should be able to make my way down. So I'm just thinking, navigate across this saturated area of land. Whoa! There was a pheasant right there, folks. I got such a fright. That's what it's like in these glens. It's just wild. There's just animals hidden all over in the bushes and that, and probably hiding from animals that's trying to hunt them or whatever. Wow, look at this. The wee waterfall. The water comes down over the old track. Yeah, I think I'm going to follow the edge of this waterfall down the hill. There's such a massive quantity of stones in this area. Probably tipped over from the fields as well. Scotland's known for having incredible stony and rocky landscapes. That's how often old farms was like that. There's an interesting bit here where there's actually two channels. This is one of them here, and then there's one over there. Anyway, let's keep heading down here, folks. It is interesting. I like looking around and imagining when these walls were first built. What was the land like? And it is interesting when you see the two channels. It makes you think, were they using water, or had they rerouted the water for a certain reason? Sometimes old waterways and stuff can actually lead you to the history. Yeah, I'm just thinking what way to go down here. Whether to stay at this side of the fence or cross over. This is so steep. Mission update here, folks. I was just thinking I should cross over this waterway while it's safe to do so, in case I go further down the hill and it's no way. Because when this waterfall gets to the bottom of the hill, it might be a large boggy area. What a scene. This thing trickling down past. Yeah, the old Crofts in this general direction. Look at this fungus here, folks. It's the bridie fungus, also known as the bracket fungus. They seem to enjoy growing on the old birch trees that's dead. So I can see at the bottom of the hill, further along here, it's like a bog. So for this second time on the adventure, I'm staying at the high part of the hill, but I need to try and not actually slide down. Yeah, there's another wee stream here. Often you see stuff in the background like old water barrels and stuff, but a lot of that's gamekeeping equipment, because that's a key part of the Scottish estates, the gamekeepers and the gamekeeping scene. And some of that barrels and things would have maybe been feeders and stuff for pheasants at a certain time. Down here there's actually an old wall line. It's so cool, like this location, I've never been here in my life, so it's cool often going to a place like that you've never seen. And sometimes the history hidden in the wee corners of Scotland's the coolest things. It's almost like off the beaten path. Yeah, this is interesting here. I was just analysing why it looks like it's built. If you look at the line in the land there, and that leads on down in behind that dike. Sometimes that's the scars of the land that tell you the story of the history. That's why I often just take a wee second to analyse it, think, why was it like that? Wow, what a scene here. This must be an old field wall, potentially for the Croft that we're about to see further up the river here. We're now down at the lower level of the glen. Each of these little glens, like especially the Angus glens here in Scotland, they've got their own little character. And Glen Prosen has just got such a beautiful scene all around, and I can hear the call of the birds of prey. There's a big stone there and it's almost like it's been a gatepost. Maybe an ancient path came down there and along. I should maybe follow the boundary of the old path, but I was wanting to look over at the river. We've had a lot of rain this past week, so I'm thinking the river could be quite ferocious. See, at times, folks, this river can actually rise up to almost the height of this, and you can see that from the sheer underwashing. I'm being super careful. It's probably not even safe to be where I am. Look at that. It's almost 1.5 meters like washed under, so it could be the same right under my feet. I'm not taking any risks. That's probably like a 25 or 30 foot drop. Look at that there. That's a sign of the gamekeeping and the shooting, like I was mentioning earlier, and in these lands of Scotland. Wow, this is such a crazy scene. There's nothing below a lot of this grass at the edge. Just think how ferocious the river has been when it's been washing all this away. Yeah, it's actually looking a wee bit lower than what I expected. I noticed the river South Esk and stuff is really high just now. Yeah, this old wall line, that's the character of Scotland, the way the moss and stuff grows on the grey rock. Whoa, I nearly walked into that bog. I'm not even wanting to walk along that edge. You can see how probably history is actually falling down there. These big stones are surely nearly fallen. There's two ducks flying up the way. It's all going on in this glen, folks. Anyway, I'm going to walk around this way. I'll update you once I'm a wee bit further along. So these are the wee corners of Glen Prosen that we've never documented before on the channel. Sometimes coming into pieces of landscape like this, it's like a fairy tale scene. Look at the way the moss grows over the old stick. And then these sheer rocks. And this may have even been an old track which led along the side of the river to the old farm originally. And I can actually see there's a bridge over the river at this lower area. And last time me and Highlander came across in our wellies through the river, and we didn't even realise there was a bridge. We went on a total insane mission. Whoa, this looks like a boggy area up ahead. Look at this, we've made it to the edge of the bridge. Look how much stuff's been washed up against the edge of that. There's some roar for the river. The bridge doesn't actually look the safest. It's sagging in the middle. Whoa, it looks a bit spooky, a bit like up and down. I would be on edge crossing that thing. Luckily our piece of history is at this side of the river. This is almost like it's been quarried out. Maybe the stone that built this old farm and this old cottage came from the lands here. Maybe quarried from this rocks. Yes, here we are. We're within the area of the main field around the farm Croft and the cottage. It would have been a really ancient croft with this building which is nearest to us. And then in later years the other cottage would have gotten constructed, most likely in the 1800s and that. And then I believe it had been lived in all the way into the 1900s. So it's interesting to think of that. The families or communities that were down within these wee glens. Nowadays the land is taken over from like a bigger nearby farm or whatever, and then the individual little farms and houses just get left like this for years. But it is cool that the remains of it is left, so I can come and tell the story of the history. Or it's often cool to come and just see what is left, because it's cool thinking like the 1700s and the earlier times. Imagine the smoke coming out of the chimney as you approach the house. Somebody would maybe be outside hacking some sticks for the firewood. Maybe at times they'd also be down here fishing at the river. It would be cool if you had a farm like that. You would obviously have the normal farm things, but to have a river so close, that was another source of food, which is unique to this location. They had it all. Oh, that's an interesting hill there. It's got like stones and stuff built along the edge. Sometimes the places, when you're on your way to one adventure, you just find something else that's amazing. And there's a super black cloud coming overhead here, and I'm thinking rain is about to come on, potentially. It's actually getting darker as well. The blue skies is kind of moving over that way. Wow, let's take a look at this history, folks. Document it on the channel here. What a scene. Look at the old walls. Wow, look at the character of the old cottage. Just think how long ago these walls and stuff were put in. There's probably been a croft on the land here way back, maybe like 1500s, and then it was developed and changed, made into like the latest construction. And I think this would be the oldest settlement here, or the oldest house. And then at later times, this one here would have been constructed, maybe in like the 1800s or whatever. And see the atmosphere of this, it is crazy, because I've turned up here and I can just feel this storm brewing. It's like it's going to be an extreme storm. But that's what it's like in Scotland. We're out all conditions, having a bit of fun, making these videos possible. This could have been the old farm cart shed. And it's like, whoa, look, more pheasants, folks. I got another fright. It's fright after fright. It's like there's been an old road leading up the hill there as well at a certain time. Wow, yeah, it's interesting to see it, but there is no chimney in this building, so not unless it was always just that cottage and it was updated and maintained. But I believe it must have been stayed in until like the 1900s, judging from the architecture and the interior fittings. Yeah, I love coming at this time of year when all the greenery and stuff's died down. You can see the walls and things properly. And see with this one, you can actually see the original limestone mortar between there. And that's made in some of the lime kilns that we see. But also the lime kilns were used for spreading on the fields. So it's interesting to think of that. There might have been a lime kiln at this farm. Let's look in this shed, because there's a piece of machinery here. I'm pretty sure it was when you were planting tatties, you used this. This was part of a machine. Wow, the rain is on now anyway for sure. I need to put up my hood. I do apologise for any rain on the lens at this point. I'll give it a clean. I'm going to head over to the wee house. Whoa, I need to get shelter here. Look at the wee farmhouse garden at the front of this area. And look, it's got like a vent or whatever leading in under the floor. Whoa, a beast or something just landed on me. I got such a fright. You have to think, folks, that'll be like the home to many rats and stuff, being so close to the river. Wow, I'm going to just literally head straight in this window. The house is not going to give me much shelter, but the walls will certainly protect me a little bit. Yeah, let's go into this old living room. Think about the folks sat around here, maybe speaking about their days work on the farm out here in these fields, or working out on the lands that we've just walked in on. Wow, the old fire. Check out here. Maybe at one time a wee cooking range or whatever. You can see the old wooden lath here, and then the plaster was smeared on the top. The old plaster back in the day, seemingly around that time it had horsehair and stuff mixed in it to give it strength. And I was saying early 1900s because of this stonework. A lot of the lath and plaster was like 1800s, early 1900s I believe, and this stuff here looks like the newest walls. So maybe the interior side of this house was upgraded and maintained for so much longer. The trees just pushed off all that chimney and things. There's one beam left above my head. I need to keep drying the lens on the camera. Let's keep it moving, folks. You know how it is. Look out this window here, or door I should say. I can see birds of prey flying. They're still out hunting even when the weather's like this. And just to think, last time I came here it was overgrown, but the thing is it was a summer's day and I was just in a t-shirt. And then today to come back and see it like this. Oh look, this has been where the main cooking range is, at this end of the house. Wow, look at this, folks. See, this is why I like this time of year. You can actually come and look at things like this. And this is the old back of the fire. And then in here you can see the brackets. And there used to be a device where you would cook all your food and stuff above the fire. And you had all sorts of stuff like the kettle and the pots, and then even like a metal plate that you would cook various things on. You would fold it above the heat, and then when you were ready to use the item you would fold it out again and then collect like the kettle or whatever back in the day. Like, and just think about the folk making their cuppy sitting here. This would have been where the conversation was in the house. Maybe that first room we came in at the far end would have been one of the bedrooms. Look at this at the other end of the fire. It's got this incredible metal bar on the side of it. Wow, it is interesting. One last piece of the mantelpiece there. You can see there's even trees growing out of the wall. Probably seeded into the old chimney. And yeah, we've had this kind of weather all day today. I was driving through rainstorms. That's how I was kind of limited as well for time today, but as well as the weather. But I've ended up out anyway, so it's pretty cool. There's an unusual bit in the land over there, but it's just so boggy to get over to it. I'm not sure, I think it's maybe just like a fallen tree. There's been other little rooms here at the back. All these dead bushes would normally be hindering our way if we were trying to walk in here in the summer. Yeah, there's just roots and stuff. All these trees have sadly been busting the walls apart. What a cool wee house, a wee cottage. Let's head on out the front door of it and get it for this angle as well. I think the sun's going to actually come out. Look at this, up this way. This is the true like beauty of Scotland sometimes. Wee adventures when you just head into a wild bit of land, and then to explore a bit of history along the way, and just to remember the history with a wee adventure or a walk. The original farmhouse garden's got a clear perimeter wall. And I was just coming down to this corner. The river is so much more ferocious than when we walked through it though. Sometimes in the summer, if you don't get rain for a long period, then the rivers get really low, and that was how we walked across. We had on wellies, but that wasn't even for the rain or the water, it's because there's often ticks. Look at, we've actually got a rainbow in the sky here above this site, and that shows what a perfect adventure it's been. It's the true ultimate scene here. Wow folks, that's real magic. I need to keep drying the lens. I just love history like that. I'm walking towards it now because I love the angle of that with the rainbow. Wow, real abandoned history of Scotland documented once again. I can't believe how heavy the rain is, but I still love being out and about and exploring. This rainbow's getting more and more vivid. Wow, I'm gonna get so soaked. I really need to kind of keep this moving. What a mad adventure it's been. Look, there's other remains here. This has been some sort of old bed or some sort of fold up bed. Maybe out of the house originally. Look at it folks. An old fold up contraption of history here. Maybe somebody's been chilling back in the early 1700s. They've maybe been sitting here looking out over the river, drinking a cuppy. Oh, I do apologise for that. The water on the lens. And look at this behind me. The history surrounded by the old rainbow. And my car's actually up at the top there near the tree line. It's crazy how today it's just like light, and then there's just a line, and then it's just dark. And it's a clear line in the sky folks. You can see it with your own eyes here. It's just beautiful. Sometimes when you come out in Scotland, it's like going into the set of the craziest film. Sometimes when you visit a wee farm or a building like this, it's like going to planet Earth after all humans have disappeared. And then look how a rainbow can get more vivid as the time progresses here on the land. Wow, the shot of that, and also with the house. I put the hood down thinking, oh, the rain's going off, and then boom. I'm keeping it up folks, you know how it is. What a scene. Whoa, there's a double rainbow forming. I need to dry the lens, I was thinking, but it's just constantly getting rained on, and you have to just bear with it. Sometimes to see the coolest things, we need to just put up with a wee bit of rain or whatever. And wow, that angle of history, it's almost like brought it to life. To see a rainbow arching its way over this structure. It's the way nature's just got such a crazy beauty at times, folks. The way the sun shines, shining through the rain. Wow, I've just been blown away by what we've seen. I forgot how cool this was. And it's interesting to see the red, finer finished sandstone around the windows. And then the more rougher stone for obviously the main bulk of the wall. And it must have had little wooden framed windows in here that I can't really see any evidence of. A lot of houses and stuff got gutted, or sometimes the fixtures and fittings got taken away and like reused. Some crofts even got the stones and stuff taken away and reused as well at times. This side still has the chimney on it, and there's a crow's wing sticking out of the rocks, so I'm not sure what's happened there. But it's probably been crows or whatever that's like nesting in there. Wow, yeah, I'm not sure. There's like a crow's wing. It's like under the stone. You can see it as well there, folks. That's what's sticking out. Wow, this landscape. Look at these clouds, the stormy sky. The different levels of light shining through the clouds. Lighting up the wet boglands, which at one time would have been the green fields. The lands at one time would have been more drained. Whereas now it's just left. It's just grazing lands now. Whereas at one time they likely planted like crops, barley, wheat, etc. And then now we've got the sunshine, it's out, and the old house stands in the foreground. What a mad adventure it's been. It's been a rainy adventure. It just got rainy when I turned up. We've walked around, got in the shots, and now I'm going to head back up. I'm just thinking what way to go. The ground is so saturated, but in Scotland you can't win. In the winter it's hard because of the weather conditions to get places, but in the summer it's because of the greenery and the trees and the shrubs that make it difficult. Yeah, I think these maybe were just more industrial farm buildings at this side, because they've got no windows. And you can see this hole here. Likely it was so they could wash the cow shed out and the dirt would just run away into the field or away from the farm. And these trees are pretty big here, up growing on top of the wall. One day those roots of those trees may knock the wall down. I was just thinking about going up that way, but the hills are so extremely steep. And I think there's like a private residence up at the top of the hill. That's why I'm not really wanting to go up to the area up there. I'm going to keep my adventure, I think, back up this way. What a place. A wee adventure like this not only documents the history, but it documents how the weather in Scotland can change so dramatically in a short period of time. I've just noticed I need to clean the lens on the camera, and I'll get back to you. So yeah, a few minutes ago it was super like windy, rainy, and then now it's just paradise. The sun's shining, and because I got wet from the rain, it's just exactly what you need. You dry off so quick. The sun's so bright though now. And then the sky at this side's just pure clear and blue. It's like that storm was what the glen needed for the weather to improve. Sometimes it's the high hills that cause the rainstorms as the warm air gets pushed up, hits the cold air. So I would say that wee croft was probably in its prime in like the 1700s, into the 1800s. But then it's like a lot of crofts, they kind of died out. That way of life, if you just had a small piece of land like that, it wasn't often enough. And then the families sometimes also just died out or whatever, and the land gets taken over by a nearby farmer or bought over by somebody new. And sometimes they only want the land and they didn't really want the old houses and the buildings, which again were outdated. A lot of those old houses didn't have electricity or even some sanitation at times. And that's the real ancient history that you didn't think about when you're often just like walking around. It's like one footstep out of the caveman era almost. So I've just made it back up to the top of this incredibly steep hill. The sheep are along now at the riverside, and I'm back at this kind of incredibly massive pile of rocks. And the land is crazy. I can see an aeroplane going across the sky as well. Looks like it's yellow or orange. but it stands out in front of the blue sky. Yeah, this is an extreme part of the adventure right here, but I had to catch my breath walking up that extreme hill. It's just mad, folks. See, in an area like this, folks, there's no sign of the running water on the surface, but you just hear it. Sometimes you can get a super deep hole. As the water runs down the hill, it can carve out like a really deep hole and the grass grows over it. And if you're not paying attention, you could fall right down. And I can hear water running at both sides. And I'm just basically gassed out, folks. You know how it is walking up a steep hill. It's probably the worst time to actually vlog. And I'll update you once I get to the top of the hill. The view just gets better and better the further up I come. And it's been amazing to walk in this sunshine after that rainstorm. But what an amazing time to capture that little croft with the rainbow above it. That's what makes an adventure often special. Capturing a place at a certain moment in time. 5 minutes later, it just doesn't look the same anymore. Look at this, folks. It's always the coolest of landscapes that I promise you on this channel. And adventures heading into them. But with a scene like that, there's actually snow on the faraway hills. But the weather is actually getting more like springtime now, I would say. If I'm just judging from the actual wind temperature, it's a lot more mild. So that snow is probably going to thaw out in the coming weeks. No, unless we do get another cold snap. This hill is no joke, folks. I've been right down to the bottom level, so low in the glen, and then climbing up through the boglands and then the grasslands of the field, and now this wild area of ferns, because I've got my crossing point here. But this hill is no joke. If anybody goes for a walk down here, like, they have to be ready for a steep climb after it. I'm always just blown away when I look around and see that as well. So cool, like, you can just see so far. Such a scene of Scotland. Wild mountains and green forests, rolling hills. And then just to think of all those wee historical nuggets hidden within the landscape. It's so cool to come out and document it. Sometimes we do get caught in a rainstorm or whatever, but it's worth it just to see the history. And here we adventure. This is my crossing point here. I think there's no actually any fence wire on this lower fence, so I just step over. Yes, we've made it, folks. We're back to the windy, wild, weathered world at the top of the hill here. Back to where we started the video, and this is the little main road at Glen that works its way around. And it actually goes right back down the other side by Piercy. And that was the side that I walked in the last time, so it was cool today to come back and see a new bit of land and have a fresh adventure in these lands. I do enjoy having a wee walk in the lands of Glen just because of the scenes, and it was worth getting caught in the rainstorm to see the Croft with the rainbow. It was super cool, folks. Anyway, I'm ending this one here. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you soon with the next adventure, wherever I end up going.